Years ago, as a teen or a young adult, I asked my maternal grandmother how she handled the overt racism of her youth and young adult years. My grandmother grew up in a place very similar to the one depicted in The Color Purple, but instead of rural Georgia, it was rural Arkansas. I don't know much about her experience there. She didn't talk about it much. I only know she was glad to leave the dirt roads of Arkansas and move to the more developed Kansas City, Kansas. In answer to my question about how she navigated the racist world she lived in, she said, if you didn't feel like putting up with the mess, you didn't go to town. She wasn't just talking about the dirt roads. She meant the racist practices and attitudes that meant you had to be very careful around white folks. Can you imagine the self awareness and self control and self discipline and restraint you have to develop to know when you have it in you to put up with the mess? You'd have to think to yourself, you know, I've worked 10 hours today, haven't had much to eat, and today is not the day for someone to say something to me that I feel is disrespectful. I do not have it in me to put up with the foolishness today. Well, in The Color Purple, by this time in the story, we know that Sophia is one who will not put up with foolishness at any time, especially if someone puts their hands on her. Sophia is introduced in the novel and in the movie as a big, proud woman who is in love with Mr. Son Harpo. She has her own mind, makes her own decisions. She believes a man can take care of his own children and help around the house. She believes herself to be equal and deserving of respect. Harpo is both enthralled and confused by Sophia's strength. Harpo grew up in a home dominated by his father, Mr. Mr. ruled the house without question. His word and will were the only things that mattered in their household. Harpo is advised to control Sophia, to keep her in her place, to hit her. A fight breaks out between Sophia and Harpo. She will not submit. And although Sophia loves Harpo and Harpo loves Sophia, Sophia leaves him because she will not fight in her own home. In fact, Sophia says she's had to fight all of her life as a Black girl, and the one place she will not fight is her own home. In the clip that we viewed, Sophia is in town with her new man, the prize fighter, and their baby, and her children. Everyone looks good, minding their own business, out for a Sunday drive, I suppose. But in town, the common meeting places were often a minefield, the places where people come together with all of their own history, expectations, social location, and privilege, under the context of racism and patriarchy. It is no wonder that people like my grandmother had to make sure they were ready for any encounter. Because as some people say, a situation can go sideways very quickly. As in the interaction between the mayor's wife and Sophia quickly does. It is their interaction that provides a window into the need for a womanist view. The mayor's wife, Miss Minnie, approaches Sophia's children and states how nice they look. Sophia is proud of the way her children look. Then Miss Minnie offers what she thinks is a compliment. They are so clean. Uh-oh. This is the beginning of a tragic incident. Some folks wonder how can such a compliment lead to disaster? It is, if anything, a backhanded compliment because it assumes that the norm for Black children is the opposite. Sophia's children are unusual in their cleanliness to this woman. Now, let me say, this is not unusual for me or the Black people that I know. We were raised to step out of the house clean and representing yourself and your family. I know times have changed and styles have gotten a lot less formal, but this is how I grew up and this is how I raised my children. But then Miss Minnie takes it a step further and she asks Sophia if she wants to be her maid. I wonder, did Sophia really have a choice? Could she have offered a polite no, thank you, and that would have been the end of it? I'm not sure the mayor's wife would have considered that an appropriate response either. Miss Minnie's social location, privilege, and whiteness gave her the right to ask Miss Sophia to serve her. Sophia's personality and self respect were offended by the offer. Sophia feels free to answer honestly and forcefully. Hell no. Sophia did not follow the rules of white supremacy. She forgot her place in the system. She was attacked and she responded. Then she is fiercely attacked by the crowd. I don't know where all these people came from, but they rush in to put her back in her place. In the midst of all this chaos and violence, Sophia demands that her children be taken to safety. As the police arrive, Sophia cries out for help, but the police are not there to help her. They are there to silence and punish her. This dramatic and tragic scene shows what it means to be both Black and a woman. It is out of this experience of racial oppression and gender oppression that womanist thought emerges. In a world that often diminishes the role and value of Black women, womanism centers and celebrates Black women's lives and experiences. In the scene, we have two women who experience the world in vastly different ways. Miss Minnie is a white woman with a close proximity to power in that she is white and she is married to the mayor. In time, women in her position will come to see male domination as the enemy that they must fight, and yet still keep their racist thoughts and behaviors, consciously or unconsciously. White feminism is not simply about being white. It is the feminism that upholds white supremacy by focusing primarily on the concerns of white women and dismissing or ignoring the oppression of Black women and women of color. This type of feminism holds that we must all experience oppression in the same way, unwilling to consider the differences in Black women's experiences. Sophia's experience as a Black woman who is not allowed to speak her mind or protect herself is not considered. It is, in fact, grossly ignored. The truth is, Sophia has her own goals and dreams. These goals and dreams do not include serving as anyone's maid. No one cares about this version of Sophia. This was the experience of many Black feminists in the 1960s and 70s. Their needs and visions were not being addressed. In terms of Black liberation and freedom, the movement, though mobilized and staffed by Black women, was led by Black men. The movement centered the voices of Black male leaders who often believed in Black freedom and anti-racism while keeping male domination and sexism in place. So, neither the feminist movement nor the Black liberation movement considered the experiences of Black women. A scholar has summed up the reality of these early days as all the women were white and all the Black people were men. In the mid-1980s, womanist philosophy was developed. It is a philosophy deeply rooted in the experiences and struggles of women, particularly women of color. Womanism centers the survival, struggle, faith, and wisdom of Black women. It recognizes that women have always been at the forefront of change, nurturing communities and standing firm in faith through adversity. But why is this important to us today? Womanist theologians and thinkers have taught us that asking about whose story, survival, and interest are centered is as important to all of our collective freedom. Womanism embraces the diversity among women, understanding that each woman's experience is shaped by her race, her ethnicity, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, and more. Womanism calls all of us to recognize and dismantle systems of oppression that marginalize women in all of their diversity. One of the core concepts of womanism is intersectionality. People are harmed at the intersection of Black and female, LGBT and Black, poor and Black. The leading figure on intersectionality, Kimberly Crenshaw, advocates for working to relieve the disaster women face at the intersections. Womanism opposes all oppression and considers one of its main objectives freedom for all people. Womanist theologians examine ideas, beliefs, and practices from the perspective that does it allow all of us to survive. Womanism is not just a social or political movement, it is deeply spiritual. It challenges us to view women through the lens of love and grace. It calls us to uplift and empower women in our communities, ensuring that they have the resources and support that they need. One of the resources we have in our religious community is the Unitarian Universalist Women's Federation, the UUWF. The UUWF describes itself as advocates for Unitarian Universalist women, recognizing that at times in their history, the UUWF advanced harmful white feminist practices that excluded the voices of women of color. The UUWF's vision today is to equip all of us to be better co-conspirators and allies in the movement for collective liberation. After working many years with the UUWF to evaluate and select scholarship recipients, I have recently joined the board. And I hope that you will take some time to look at the programs, workshops, and resources provided by UUWF. And if you are a woman or woman-identified person, I hope you will consider becoming a member. And if you are a male, consider providing financial support to assist with scholarships and programming. It was while attending one of these virtual UUWF conversations recently that I heard a young Black woman speak about the fourth wave of womanism. Just as feminism has evolved with new learning, so too has womanism. The new wave of womanism seeks to make space for women to express all of themselves, not only the struggle. Its goal is to pursue the right to dream and rest as radical, revolutionary resistance. It is connected to the call for freedom articulated in early womanism. Ebony Janice, the author of All the Black Girls Are Activists, describes today's womanism as the freedom to develop all of oneself, not just the strength to fight for freedom, justice, and survival. Ooh, that's why I don't like these things. She describes the fourth wave of womanism as the freedom to pursue a soft life, a life where Black women don't have to be strong all the time, don't have to be hard, and only feel safe when they're being firm, where a Black woman like Sophia doesn't have to fight her whole life. Here is the following definition she describes about softness. Following a retreat, she wrote, I want to be able to sit down inside myself and feel this ease. I don't want to wake up every day feeling anxious. What I want is to not be a strong Black woman just because I am a Black woman who happens to be strong. I want to be soft, a state of embodied, full-seated consciousness, a condition of being wholly relaxed into the mind and body, the place in which one trusts their own vulnerabilities, a place where one can trust others with their vulnerabilities, to be tender and act from tenderness, the safe space from which one expects to be handled as if they are precious, an investment in a nervous system that is healing and stabilizing from various traumas. Even reading this definition opens up a space for deeper breathing and relaxation in me, a place where my defenses can take a break, available but not needed. Then the critic steps into my brain and shouts, wake up, life is not like this for anyone, stop dreaming. And that is the point for me and for all of us that we can learn from this fourth wave of womanist thinkers, that it's okay to dream. We are allowed to create the conditions that we believe will lead to our healing and thriving. The title of the chapter is In Pursuit of Softness, not I have already achieved softness. How can this pursuit of softness influence the choices I make about my work, my relationships, and how I spend my time? By embracing the thought that Black women just relaxing and breathing is revolutionary. Unfortunately, images of Black women at rest will lead some to think of the welfare queen stereotypes or being lazy. This is what racism does. It distorts and confuses the issue. Softness is not laziness or traditional feminine roles. It's not about luxury or money. It is rooted in healing and centering wellness in body, mind, and spirit. And it's not only for women. Womanism seeks everyone to be whole and free. What womanism asks is that Black girls and women deserve softness and a society that makes space for their softness. I know a young African American grandmother who is a scholar and trainer working in areas of racial justice, the prison abolition movement, and assisting with reentry programs for formerly incarcerated people, mostly women. This is work she has undertaken for years, traveling around the country, making speeches, participating in panels, researching and writing papers. She approaches the work with passion and deep concern. This is the very opposite of a soft life: long hours, stress, and a personal investment in the work, a full commitment to women's survival. But what about her dreams for herself? If you ask her what she most wants to be doing, she'll let you know. I want to work in my garden, write stories, make cookies for my grandchildren, and play with them before they're too old to want to play with me. It's not a matter of finances that keeps her working. It's the depth of the need for justice that she witnesses. It's what she's trained to do and feels what she must do. She carries the responsibility and the burden of all the Black girls being the type of activist deep in the struggle. Of course, everyone has to make decisions about how they spend their time, but it's the weight of the responsibilities she feels as a Black woman that keeps her doing the work. She carries the responsibility and burden of freeing as many Black girls and women as she can. She knows there's another choice that she could make, but for now she chooses to do the work that she feels called to do. More of a first wave womanist thinking. And now I want to tell you about a young artist who is moving toward the fourth wave of womanism. Her choices demonstrate a blending of freedom, survival, a pursuit of softness, and self-expression. The artist is a young Black woman named Ebony Marshman. Ebony graduated from college with a degree from Western Kentucky University in the art department. A reporter, while reporting on another story at the college, noticed her collection of art and asked if he could interview her about her life and her work. Ebony and a friend were teaching Montessori across town in a wealthier part of town, while living in a poorer section of town with more Black and brown people. Ebony and her friend began to wonder, what does school look like as a place you go to heal rather than a place you must heal from? And how could they offer that kind of school in their own neighborhood? 3 years later, with a lot of work and grants, they opened the River Seed School, a Montessori school centered on Black students in the heart of Washington, D.C., an African-American community in 2022. The school serves 3 to 6-year-olds and offers individualized education to each child. The children are encouraged to move at their own pace. Ebony continues to make time to create art. She says her work is like journaling, inspired by the literary work of Black women writers and thinkers like Zora Neale Hurston, Bell Hooks, Toni Cade Bambara. The art is a form of expression in which she is free to make her own decisions and let her creativity flow. Womanist values of healing, creating, freedom, and justice are clearly intertwined in her life and work. It is a balance of healing work and self-expression. As we reflect on womanism today, let us remember that it is a call to action and reflection. It calls us to advocate for gender and racial equality, to challenge patriarchal norms, and to support policies that uplift women and girls. It calls on us to stand in solidarity with our sisters, to amplify their voices, and to celebrate their achievements. It calls for us to honor the need for softness and rest. Let us be inspired to embody womanism in our daily lives, to be advocates for justice, champions of equality, and vessels of love and peacefulness. May we embrace the spirit of womanism, honoring the legacy of those who have come before us, and paving the way for future generations of women and girls to thrive. May it be so.